No longer is it the joke of the pub board, bring back national service. No, actually, there is a sensible, practical idea that's been put forward today, and I've not heard it. I've not heard it sensibly put forward in this country, frankly, in my lifetime. Adam Hawksbee is Deputy Director of the centre-right think tank Onward. And this report, Adam, and you've had Penny Mordaunt back it, you've had Dan Jarvis, the MP, back it, Rory Stewart, former MP, back it. Are you really going to put every 16-year-old in khaki?
So we are going to give every 16-year-old the opportunity, they can opt out if they want to go through a modern form of national service, which combines civic and voluntary elements, things like social action, with a 2-week residential programs. That might include elements of your traditional military service, kind of outdoor bounds, physical activities.
Yep.
But the real purpose of that 2 weeks is social mixing. There are too few opportunities at the moment for young people to meet others outside of their bubble, outside of their class, outside of the traditional area that they've grew up in. So that's why we want to reintroduce this, to help people build relationships outside of their usual social network, to build skills, to build character, those soft skills, and also to develop a stronger sense of belonging to their community and to their nation.
So why just 2 weeks?
Well, we think the first scheme should be a couple of weeks. I mean, look, logistically, this is enormously challenging. One of the things that inspired us is they just introduced a similar programme in France, the Service National Universel, if you'll excuse my bad French accent.
Wasn't too bad.
And they, what they did 5 years ago, Emmanuel Macron has said, we need this sort of programme, how can we make it work? They said, let's go for conscription, the sort of programme that previously might have been called for.
Yep.
The army said, no thanks. Actually, it's not useful for us to have a bunch of recruits.
I mean, actually, the truth of it is the British Army is now so small that it physically wouldn't have the people at this moment in time to train people and to do military. So this is a completely non-military option.
Yeah.
And it's a couple of weeks of bonding, basically.
Well, it's got 3 phases. So the first week is that couple of weeks of bonding. That's the residential. So that's where people get a feel for it, meet people outside their bubble. Then you have 6 months in which people do a couple of hours a week of social action. So some might do St John's Ambulance, the Special Constabulary. Others might do more local programmes. It's up to that young person, their school, the community. And then the third phase, if people wish to, is to do a year of service. That might be more like the AmeriCorps model, where people do a full year as a gap year.
Yeah. And you're saying 16-year-olds begin this?
Yeah. So it would be alongside school or college. So it would be something that they do in...
And then the year you might do would be at 18 when you finished your A-levels or whatever it may be.
Yeah, it could be. And people might choose to flex this over those 2 years when it's best for them.
Now, there are some schemes that exist already along these lines, but for those you have to opt in.
Yeah.
What you're suggesting is that everyone goes into this unless they choose to opt out.
Yeah, I mean, this might sound very familiar to some people. National Citizen Service was the David Cameron era attempt at this, and their big target...
And let's be frank, it went nowhere.
Well, so its target was 45% participation. It crept up year on year and in the end got to about 15%, which is still a decent chunk of young people, but nowhere near the 80% that we're aiming for. We think about 1 in 5 young people might opt out. But the reason that we've argued for, an NCS on steroids, a much bigger scheme, is because that mass participation, the shared ritual, every young person doing it, is what's so important, because that's how you meet people from different groups. It's not just those that step.
Well, I think you're right. I think, to be honest with you, the biggest divide in Britain now is a class divide. It's a huge class divide. And so the idea that everyone mixes in together, I think, is a very, very good idea. What needs to happen, Adam, to take a concept like this from being an academic paper put out by Onward? How do you make it actually happen in reality?
Yeah, so the first thing you're going to need is a lot of political support. So one of the things we wanted to test here is the amount of public support. And we were actually blown away. So the public, by about 56% to about 19%, support national service.
I get it.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
Young people themselves, actually, this is what I think is misunderstood. So 18 to 25-year-olds in our poll, 3-to-1 supported a national service scheme.
Did they really?
They did. And that was 46% to 17%. They said this is a good idea. And so this is something that young people are after. It's something they want. As long as it's not compulsory military, they're up for it. But what you're going to need is a politician that says, I back this, I support it, I will invest in it. So we calculate it will cost about £1 billion a year. At the moment, the budget for NCS is about 200 million. So that's a significant ramp up. They've got to prioritise it, they've got to invest in it, and they've got to make the case that this is an investment in young people's future.
So you need some support from Labour politicians too, don't you?
We do, but I mean, David Lammy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, in his book argued for a form of national service. In fact, he argued for a compulsory form because he said, without rights, without obligation, there's no rights. Without obligation, no duty.
No. How long ago was that book written?
It would have been prior to his current appointment to the Shadow Cabinet.
That's my only concern about. Hey, look, I don't know. I hope David Lammy does support it, and I hope this big. I'd love to see this as an issue that actually wasn't considered to be left or right.
Right.
But it was about, people coming together and a feeling that actually there is a shared identity and that the nation and belonging to it and giving to it is important. Well, all I can say, Adam, is I do genuinely wish you well with this. And I'm 100% behind you.